I'm Aimee Osbourne and I'm the oldest of the children.
Were you ever embarrassed by your family?
Of course, I mean...
The rain had been falling for hours, a steady, almost respectful drizzle that washed the dust off the city and muted the usual noise. Inside the dimly lit lounge of her Los Angeles home, Aimee Osbourne sat with a blanket pulled around her shoulders. The news had broken earlier that morning. Her father, the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne, had been rushed to the hospital again after a sudden downing in his health. For most of the world, it was just another headline about a rock icon whose life had always danced recklessly on the edge of chaos.
Oh?
What do you think of your father?
I think that he is incredibly unique. I think he's talented. I think he's misunderstood.
How?
My dad just wants everyone to be happy and, to be doing what they love. And I think sometimes he forgets that that's what he should want for himself as well.
But for Aimee, it was a jolt, a reminder of how fragile the threads of connection could be, even with someone as seemingly indestructible as her father. She had grown used to living in the shadow of his legend, accustomed to the way strangers spoke about him as though they knew him better than she ever could. They saw the man with the eyeliner, the wild hair, the unpredictable antics on stage and in interviews. They saw the MTV caricature, the larger-than-life rock god, the survivor of excess. But Aimee knew another version, a man who was often absent, even when physically present. A man who could be gentle and awkward in the quiet moments, yet infuriatingly unreachable when she needed him most. Growing up as Ozzy Osbourne's daughter had never been about fairy tale dinners or predictable family holidays. It was about navigating the chaos that fame had grafted onto their lives, about learning early on that the man the world worshipped was also just her dad, flawed and fragile in ways no stage light could disguise.
The Osbourne everyone wonders about. For the first time, daughter Aimee speaks out. What do you most want people to know about you?
That I'm not some weirdo, depressed daughter that's afraid of the world that locks herself in her room all day.
Next.
There may be no secrets in the Osbourne family, but there is a mystery, and her name is Aimee.
She remembered being a little girl, watching him from the doorway as he sat in the garden, cigarette in hand, lost in thought. Those moments were rare and precious because they felt real. No cameras, no fans, no performance. But they were fleeting. Most of the time, Ozzy was a whirlwind, either swallowed by touring schedules, recording sessions, or the unpredictable storms of his own battles with addiction and mental health.
Bizim wieder da. Bizim wieder da. Ozzy ist wieder da, yeah!
Aimee never doubted he loved her, but she learned to accept that love would often be filtered through distance and circumstance.
And I felt if I would have stayed with the Osbournes and done the whole Osbourne thing, I felt as though maybe I would have been typecasted right away before I had a chance to experience other things.
Was Mom mad when you decided not to participate?
She was hurt, and we definitely had our rough times for a couple of months with our disagreements. But it really was nothing to do with me not loving them and not, wanting the world to know that I am a part of this family.
Do you have any regrets?
My dad wasn't the type to read bedtime stories, she once said in an interview years ago, half smiling as though the understatement hid a lifetime of complicated truths. But he'd try to make you laugh when you were sad. He had this way of pulling these ridiculous faces or saying something so out of left field that you couldn't help but forget what you were upset about, at least for a little while. And yet, for every light moment, there were shadows. The public loved the spectacle of the Osbournes reality show, but Aimee famously refused to be part of it. That decision, she has admitted, created a barrier between her and the rest of her family for a time. While Sharon, Jack, and Kelly leaned into the fame, Aimee kept her distance, wary of allowing cameras to turn her private life into entertainment. She watched from the sidelines as the series exploded into a cultural phenomenon, cementing her family's place in reality TV history, but also feeding the public's appetite for chaos and dysfunction.
Voice.
You're not going to join the Osbournes on camera this year or next year or any time that you can see?
No.
You want to sing. And if you were doing this, you probably would have had a contract now the way your sister Kelly does.
Right.
So does it bother you that she's got one? And
No, I mean...
Truth, does it?
At first I was kind of shocked.
I just didn't want my teenage years captured for the world to judge, she said more recently, her voice tinged with both relief and a faint trace of regret. It wasn't about not loving my family. It was about protecting myself. But in some ways, it made me feel like an outsider in my own home. That distance extended to her father.
My family's lifestyle and attitude have changed so much in the last 2 years, and that's, I think, what made me uncomfortable.
Don't let it walk.
I'm gonna book her a breath test because her breath smells like all the time.
Beam me up, Scotty.
2. Without the shared experiences of filming or the constant togetherness the show forced on the rest of the family, Aimee's relationship with Ozzy often unfolded in fragments. Phone calls between tours, short visits during holidays, moments that felt both intimate and incomplete. But there were turning points. One came years later, when Ozzy had one of his most public health scares. Aimee flew in quietly, avoiding the press, and stayed by his hospital bed for hours. He was groggy, tethered to machines, but when he opened his eyes and saw her, he reached for her hand. "You're here," he whispered, as though it was the most unexpected gift. For Aimee, it was in that sterile hospital room. Stripped of the noise of fame and the barriers of their separate lives, father and daughter shared a rare closeness. They spoke little, but the silence was enough. A truce, however temporary, against years of missed moments. Even now, when she speaks about him, there's an undercurrent of fierce protectiveness. She knows the public sees him as a survivor, a man who's cheated death more times than most could imagine. But she also knows the private struggles, the days when his body aches from decades of physical punishment, the mental toll of living under constant scrutiny, the quiet admissions of fear that rarely leave the family's inner circle.
Were you ever embarrassed by your family?
Of course. I mean, do I like that my father publicly announces that he still has a drinking problem? No. Do I like that my brother and sister talk about drinking and smoking weed? No.
Did kids when you were in school say, did your father really bite the head off a bat?
Oh, that was the nicest question I got asked. I mean, I got, did your father spread a bucket around the audience and they all spat in it, and did he drink it? I mean, just absurd things.
Aimee has never been interested in romanticizing their relationship. She doesn't sugarcoat the years they spent apart, the frustrations of dealing with his unpredictability, or the weight of being linked to someone whose fame often overshadowed her own identity.
You dropped out of school.
Yes. I was suffering from major depression at the time and also dyslexia. So it got to a point where it became so overwhelming for me and so upsetting to me that I just woke up one day and said, I can't do this anymore.
What do you think of your father?
I think that he is incredibly unique. I think he's talented. I think he's misunderstood.
How?
My dad just wants everyone to be happy and, you know, to be doing what they love, and I think sometimes he forgets that that's what he should want for himself as well.
To someone whose fame often overshadowed her own identity. But in the same breath, she'll talk about the ways he shaped her, his work ethic, his ability to reinvent himself, his refusal to be defined by his lowest moments. He's not perfect, she says, but he's mine. The retrospective nature of her reflections now is sharpened by the uncertainty of his health. She admits to feeling a constant undercurrent of anxiety, a sense that every conversation could be the last, every hug more significant than the one before.
And also because of the damage that obviously has affected him.
From drugs?
From drugs and alcohol and stress, and the way he was raised has definitely taken his toll on him.
You must wish he could stop, don't you?
Sometimes I do, and then sometimes I think, if this is what makes him happy, and if this is what he needs, then fine. But seeing him struggle to stay sober is more painful than actually sometimes watching him drink.
Even if peace feels like a fragile thing. And so, as she sat at her home that rainy afternoon, thinking about the man who was both her father and an untouchable icon to millions, Aimee found herself replaying their story in her mind. The early memories, the missed chances, the small reconciliations. The world might remember Ozzy Osbourne for the music, the madness, the headlines. But for Aimee, the legacy is more complicated. It's the knowledge that love can exist even in the absence of constant presence, that connection can survive distance and difference, and that sometimes the most revealing truths about a person are the ones they share in quiet, unguarded moments no one else sees.